That's great. Okay. Got Jan here. Jan, do you want to go early? You're comfortable to come up? Jan?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for this.
No worries, the floor's yours.
Thank you. Yeah. I hope this to be short and sweet also. We've really got three subheadings here, and I'll address them and expand on what we've got here. But overall, I'd characterise the Geraldine Community Board submission as a plea for a back-to-basics approach, given the times that we're living in. So the points there with number 1 and number 2 are really about, you've got your goods, your social, economic, environmental and cultural goods under section 10. These things fall flat when assets get too run down. They don't work so well. And so that's what I meant by the council's statutory responsibilities. And I would say the same for section 101. That's your financial management section of local government legislation. It is a sticking to the knitting sort of approach that the board is taking here. We're urging the council to take that position. Number 3 there, we've supported the proposed baseline of 5% increase to fees and charges, and that's really just on song with how life is. So we've got a CPI of 5.6% in the 12 months to March 2023. So that's on song with that. So we agree with the draft plan in that respect. The 12.5% rates increase that's proposed is, we can understand the rationale for that. We understand that costs are rising, but commensurate with that, you've got huge numbers of stresses on ratepayers. And so that's why we've urged that, that the council just consider pulling it back 1 or 2 points. And to expand on number 5 there, the reconsideration of the proposed $43 million debt increase, the board's reasonably concerned about this. The comment there that's made about 2 overarching reasons for taking a more conservative approach, actual and perceived. As far as the actual goes, side winds can come from anywhere and they can really knock you flat. The perceived bit is just really that the ratepayers need to have confidence that the council means what it says. Words have got to mean something. So we'd urge reconsideration of that proposed debt increase. So that's the district-wide considerations. But moving on to whole district projects, again, it's an urging of reconsideration, and that's of non-core key projects. We think this is pretty important, and it's not to say that projects should be cut off at the kneecaps. There are degrees. And so what we're suggesting is that the council consider what is actually essential in some of these big projects and what is nice to have. And I'd iterate that ratepayers deserve certainty as much as possible with respect to rates and debt requirements, particularly at this point in time. We are living in really uncertain times and, just better to play it safe. Moving on to Geraldine projects. We propose increasing the Geraldine Community Board rate by $1, just so that we can keep supporting appropriately local community initiatives. And we expect that there'll be a few more of those to come because we have our strategic plan completion coming up really soon. And there will be projects there that the Geraldine Community Board can back symbolically with a sum of money, and practically as well. Number 8 there, we through several meetings, we looked at, are there any items there on our list that could be pared back? And in the end, none could. None are frivolous. Some of them are already behind schedule, and some of them come from specific budget lines. So, the board supports all the Geraldine-specific projects that are proposed in the draft plan. And the last point there is about greater investment in shingle roads. And, you know, we understand there's a schedule, and the schedule is good. People can have confidence in it. It gives good faith and ensures basic standards. But, you know, you can get those side winds again. So, for example, you get a new resident on a road and they've got different activities that may put more pressure on those roads. That's just an example. There are plenty of other ways why you might want to go out of schedule. But we just believe that there needs to be capacity to address ad hoc, you know, sidewind type issues, because that keeps roads safe and it ensures that maintenance needs don't get out of hand. So it's a pretty belts and braces kind of a submission there. I welcome any questions on it.
Thanks, Jan. Questions for the team? Councillor Booth first.
Just talking about shingle roads, so do you think that the ratepayers, the rural ratepayers, would be happy to actually go on a user pays sort of system and be happy to pay extra for their roading?
Ask them, possibly. But what we're saying is to allow more capacity for above schedule, for outside of schedule. Yeah, and perhaps user pays could be a way of doing it, but probably Timaru district-wide, just to keep that buffering in there. You know, weather events are another thing, but that situation where you just ad hoc get a new resident and they bring different activity with them is a very typical thing in my experience in living in rural areas. But where you might get a new resident in, you might see somebody leave as well and reduce pressure on a particular road. Just a bit of flexibility would be useful.
I guess the cost of providing that chip seal or the further servicing is probably on a basis of the use and the number of people it's servicing is actually quite expensive and therefore being subsidised by everyone else.
Yeah, well, we're not necessarily talking sealing. In fact, I wasn't really thinking about sealing. It's more just getting the grader over perhaps more often, maybe chucking a bit more shingle on from time to time. Yeah.
Well, thanks, Jan. And look, I'm 100% supportive of more investment into roading in general, and that's, partly the reason why we did that Benji Patterson report, to show the economic activity on our rural roads, and I think, that's a contributing factor. I believe the government is looking to put less money into R&M. They might be bolstering it with some other ways to, creative accounting effectively, but it'll be interesting at next LTP where we make our bid for funding from Wakatahi, because I don't think it's in a wonderful space, so it's going to be interesting. I think there's going to be more pressure come on our roads before it gets better, unfortunately. So any further questions on anything else? Yes, Councillor Oliver.
I'd just answer Alan's question there, Councillor Booth's question there. I think the thing for Geraldine is the increased business activity on our shingle roads, around logging and all those sorts of things, increased, business through dairy and stuff like that, which is really putting bigger stress on our roads. So they're having less of a life. They're continually, if we stick to the schedule like Jan's saying, those roads are becoming almost unpassable before the next grader arrives in 6 weeks' time. So it's about just keeping those roads at scratch, and the council keeping an eye on what's actually happening on those shingle roads when those guys are operating through the seasons and stuff like that, to make sure that they're not, when you talk about user pays, well, sometimes they're the biggest users at times. When you see how many logs are being pulled out of the Timona Gorge area, 6 or 7 truckloads along there that aren't normally going along those roads, and the road's doesn't have the capacity to take that. It's playing on the minds of those people that actually live on those roads and have to use them on a regular basis just to get to town. So it's more that sort of thing, I think, that where the investment needs to happen, or whether we start charging those people on using them or remediating them when they've left the area.
Yeah, look, and I think that's one we'll pick up with LTP as well in regard to the logging on some of those roads. There's some examples in Wairoa whereby they've increased the rates on that land by about 4 times. And so it's there again, it goes back to that user pays on some of those roads. So I think it's something we should certainly be considering in those logging specific examples.
Yeah, I think it's just mindful that it's this is being brought up by lots of councils in the future, and when we think of charging those people to use those roads, it's sort of, they feel like it's a bit of anti-business sentiment, but I think they've just got to be realistic around the users and how they're using them and all that they need to be remediating the roads, because councils can't just keep picking up the bills like they have been in the past.
Agreed. Any further questions on anything else? But thank you. I actually appreciate the way you've structured that submission, Jan. Really, really good. And yep, very, very clear. I think probably we do have more time if anyone else has anything else. No? All good. Appreciate that.
Yeah,
Really
thanks
good.
very much. Good
Thanks,
discussion.
yeah.
Thanks.